Coming up next on the Holistic Wealth Podcast.
So I went through a very, very painful divorce in my mid-30s. It was like a death. It's like overnight, you are a single mom with 3 kids. And it took me several years to find my way. And I too have felt like turning pain into purpose has been one of the true joys of my adult life. So that's kind of what led me towards writing children's books, how to get this kind of overarching subject of joy and turning inward to get to know yourself.
You're listening to the Holistic Wealth Podcast with host Keisha Blair, author of Holistic Wealth and founder of the Institute on Holistic Wealth. And now, here's your host, Keisha Blair.
Welcome to the Holistic Wealth Podcast, and I'm your host, Keisha Blair, and today we have an amazing guest. I have Maria Castellucci Moore with me, and Maria is a multi-award-winning author and winner of the Gold Mom's Choice Award. Maria strives to bring passion and enthusiasm to all her endeavors. A trailblazing entrepreneur, philanthropist, first-generation American writer, and mother to 4 children, Maria is a lover of all things European and has found great passion through her travels to Paris, Italy, Spain, and South America. Her affection for winemaking, foreign languages, the arts, ballroom dancing, and traveling has given Maria a unique and grateful perspective on life. Her love for family and helping others through charitable giving has enabled Maria to thoughtfully curate purposeful life adventures. I love that, Maria. Welcome to the show.
Thank you, Keisha. Thank you for having me. It's an honor.
It's great to have you here. Can you tell us a bit about yourself?
Of course. It's an honor to be here. I read your book, I want to say it was at least a year ago, and I went back to it and I thought, this is so important. This work that you're doing around the world is so critical, not only in our world today, but I just think for everyone to get to know themselves, their habits, how they can impact others, and how really everything is aligned. I mean, we kind of think of this separate nature of things, but you really hone in and bring it all in one circle. And so it drew me, and now my husband's reading it. So anyways, thank you for doing all the work that you do in this space. So I am a first generation American. My parents are from the southern part of Italy. And you know, I think having immigrant parents, you have a different work ethic, work style. There's a little grit and tenacity like woven in there. So that I think is the backbone of just my entrepreneurial spirit. You know, my parents coming to this country with nothing and having to learn the language and to see the success that they have embodied and embedded in themselves and within the community and our family has been very inspiring for me. So that has kind of led me to propel different ventures of my own. So I've never worked for anybody else. I've always, you know, kind of found my way. And I think through my own healing process, as you have so profoundly written in your story, I too have felt like turning pain into purpose has been one of the true joys of my adult life. So that's kind of what led me towards writing children's books, how to get this kind of overarching subject of joy and turning inward to get to know yourself and the whole mindfulness practice. That was just really the tools I learned along the way as an adult. So I would say, you know, writing books, making wine, these are all kind of creative outlets that have given me just some really fulfilling, impactful purpose to my life.
No, for sure.
We're in the real estate business, so I would say that's my quote unquote day job. But I think when you can weave passion, purpose, pleasure, philanthropy, all these things together is what really makes your life rich.
Yeah, no, absolutely. So. And I wanted to just backtrack a bit about something you said about turning pain into purpose. Because I think, you know, especially for this podcast and as authors, as women, our listeners or readers connect so much to us sharing the vulnerable parts of ourselves because they learn through that so much more. So I just wanted to ask you, what was it that happened that led you to that philosophy? Yeah. What was it that propelled that?
Yes, great question. I think we all, as entrepreneurs and women, like you said, we have to have a why. What's your why? What's your reason for this voice? What do you want to convey to the world? And I think the why usually comes from a place of trauma. I think when you have really strong things to share, it's because you have endured something. So I went through a very, very painful divorce in my mid-30s. It was like a death. It's like overnight, you are a single mom with 3 kids and 5. And, it's like, how do you convey to the children, like, where's their dad? And it was a very, very difficult, and coming from a family of Italians, divorce is not even something my parents didn't even know what that word meant. So I come from a very, very tight-knit family. And so this was like something out of left field for all of us. So it took me several years to find my way. And I think turning lemonade, from these sour lemons, and the universe is guiding you and always kind of has your back, if you will. I think if it wasn't for that experience, I would have never dug deep enough to get to know who I am.
Yeah.
Not the way I was raised. I was not raised with that like individualistic, like, who are you? Find your purpose. It is more like, do good for the whole of the family.
Yes.
So you lose yourself a little bit until you get, bonked on the head and your world turns upside down. And then you're like, oh, I don't even know who I am. And I have all these young kids. So I think being a mother and just that self-sacrificing that goes along with being a mother, and then this kind of traumatic life event, my healing process, really, I used kind of my creativity to heal myself, and the writing and winemaking, all that kind of stuff. It really helped me flourish. And it's amazing that now I'm like, I have a voice and I feel like I can inspire other people to get to know who they are much earlier in life. Like, they don't need a traumatic event to kind of turn inward. So I've really found some true joy and fulfillment in helping others that way.
Yeah, no, it's amazing. And I want to touch on the books, the children's books, and the winemaking, the wine business as well. But I was so drawn to your children's books too when I looked them up, because of the travel aspect and the mindfulness aspect of it. I'm working on a Holistic Wealth Kids book now. Yeah, and I'm working on Holistic Wealth for Teens. And of course, mindfulness. So when I saw yours through travel, I was like, wow, this is amazing. What an amazing thing to write about. Can you tell us about the books and how you incorporate mindfulness for kids?
Yes, of course. So like I said, I kind of had to try this out on myself for many years. Writing children's books is a challenge in one regard, because you take these large overarching subjects and then you really have to funnel it down for a child to not only understand, but kind of that takeaway. Like, what does that child take away? As an author, what do you hope that they take away? And the parents too. I mean, usually these are parents reading to their children. So it's for children and adults alike. But the piece really came from encompassing who I am. I love to travel. I speak multiple languages. I thought, if I could do one book for each child, I have 4 children, and set in a city that I've either lived in or had a very significant experience in, and kind of paint the picture of what we do in our everyday life. But when you see it with fresh eyes, you take on a different perspective, and how that perspective manifests in your body is quite remarkable. So it's all about using your 5 senses, which we are all born with. So it's kind of like tapping into your superpower, whether you're an adult or child. The illustrations are very captivating. My illustrator is from Italy, and she kind of just brings the story to life. And I think children are very drawn to pictures. And so it was like, can she tell the story even without my words? So I think she did a wonderful job of that. And yeah, so my second book just came out. I have a third book that my son will be going to London next year. So it's fun too, because I get to do a little homework assignment on each child, because the end of the book is what part of their senses really made them kind of feel most spirited, most alive. Right. We can all use these concepts in our own life, whether we are children or adult. It's also to open that conversation up between the adult and the child of what does happiness look like to you? I think we live in a world where we think it's the latest pair of jeans or we think it's the new car. It's like the elegance of simplicity
Right.
and learning how to tap in. And so if I can inspire a young person to start, I feel like I have succeeded.
I absolutely know that feeling. It's like my daughter's doing her French presentation on the book on holistic wealth. And, I was helping her do her outline. And what came home to me is just what you said, just finding joy and happiness in the simple things in life and teaching these teens. I have 3 teenagers, teaching these teens and these kids that, it's not just about the money and the success. It's about finding the little joys and seeing the wealth around us, the natural wealth. So, like wealth in nature and wealth in our relationships and wealth in our physical well-being and our mental health. And that's a part of your holistic wealth. So that resonates with me so much because I feel like, if I can touch that generation, then we'd be setting up generations to come for a better world and getting them more resilient, able to overcome setbacks. Because right now it's so ingrained in our society that we've failed if we don't reach a certain net worth, money, in our bank accounts or like title at work. And it's so ingrained that so many people are walking around feeling like failures for no reason.
I think what I've learned in my process of a combination of creative outlets, therapy, I have read more than a normal person in the last 5 years, but this whole journey has kind of led me to understand that you actually hold all the power already. Like our society teaches us to reach out for happiness. Like happiness is an external thing. And then you're always chasing. And you never are quite content with where you are. So I think I've tried to kind of depict this idea of turning inward and kind of listening to our bodies and what they're telling us, because pain lives within us. I mean, we all have some wound, right? Or we all have something that we are overcoming or will overcome. It's inevitable that, we're all battling something, whether it's significant or not. So I think this idea of creating a wellness culture, it is not about reaching away from us. And I think you do such an impeccable job, Keisha, at depicting this in your book, that this really is the message for the next generation of leaders. I mean, we're raising leaders. I read this a long time ago that we're raising adults. We're actually not raising kids. If you look at them like this is our next generation of leadership and what do you want them to value? I feel grateful. I think you and I are very aligned in that. And it's kind of our responsibility to pay it forward.
Absolutely. At first, Maria, I thought you were based in Italy because I saw the winery and the business. So amazing in terms of what you've been able to do. It started out as a family business, right? So can you tell us about the business and how that came about?
Yeah, so my parents are from the southern part of Italy, and every family in their neighborhood, my parents grew up together. I mean, it's the cutest little story. They went to first and second grade together, but I don't think they really knew each other. It was an arranged marriage actually later on, but every family member made a barrel of wine in their basement. And that's just what they drank throughout the year. It was not for profit. It's just what you did. It was like killing your local pig. Like that's what they ate. I mean, when I think back to the way my parents were raised, and I've been there, I went to the school that they, went to when they were 5 and 6 years old. I mean, it's like you're going back in antiquity, and my parents are not that old, but it's just the culture, the mindset, the ideals, the values.
Yes.
I feel very grateful to have been raised differently, I would say, than most of my counterparts. So when my parents immigrated to America, it was like continuing that tradition of, it was less about the winemaking and actually more about the real estate that ended up having grapes grown on this real estate. And so over time, they collected a fair number of properties. We live in the wine country of California, so Napa Valley, if your listeners are familiar. And so they started making a little bit of wine just as a hobby. And then when I was old enough to understand what was going on, I thought, this doesn't need to just be a hobby. We can monetize this to a degree, but we're very small. We're still super boutique in the whole scheme of wineries are concerned, but we make a very small lot for ourselves. We sell the rest of the fruit to other wineries, in the neighboring valley here. And so we kind of just pick off the best blocks for ourselves. But I think just seeing the opportunity in what could be and sharing kind of your lineage, I think when you're authentic is, I think, when you're the most successful. Yeah. So it's like sharing me. Like my books are basically about me, but no one really knows. Right. You know what I mean? The books and the wine, it's all about sharing your story. And I think storytelling today, gosh, in a way, it's like, you don't just need to be an artist to storytell, but it gets lost a little bit. It's like big blockbuster media, or I feel like we were all born with an innate desire to create. Yes. And so for me, I've kind of made it my lifestyle, but whoever's listening out there, even if you can't make it your lifestyle, carve out something that is super critical for your well-being and take an hour a day. Start with 10 minutes a day. See where it goes, and I think just being authentically yourself, because I'm not salesy. I don't know how to be salesy. I mean, I think if you're authentically you, that is success. I mean, that is success.
I absolutely agree. And I know how you feel about the sales part, because so many of us women, especially in this space, we feel the same way. I'm the same way. And I wanted to ask you, because I know our listeners are wondering, because it's so inspiring to start that kind of business and see the opportunities. How did you get started in terms of the investment piece, in terms of the money piece? I mean, if people are listening and are like, I want to start my own business, but I'm so fearful because I don't know where I'm going to get the funds from or how I'm going to continue this.
Personally, I mean, we started as a family and then I kind of broke off, but I think it does take a village. It's tough to go out there and just say, okay, I'm going to just throw it to the wind. And we have to have some level of security, I think, in order to take that risk. So for some people, that's easier said than done. For me, it was like, we already had the real estate. I was able to kind of get started because I had a bit of a backbone there. But there was some parts of our portfolio that we didn't grow, and I sourced the fruit myself. I mean, so it's kind of like, and you can start small. I was fortunate enough to start a little bit larger just because the real estate piece was already in front of me. So that was not like where I had to come up with millions of dollars to buy a property and then I had kind of that backbone. But then I realized that the wines actually didn't interest the rest of my family. So I kind of now do that on my own. But it doesn't have to be something as wine. I mean, it could be making graphic t-shirts or something with an amazing message on it. I always thought it would be cool to have like a clothing line that's sustainably sourced or bamboo something. It really could be whatever, writing poetry. I mean, I just think the risk reward, you have to be ready to put vulnerability out there with a little less fear. Yeah. And I think that fear-based mentality is where most of us live. And if you can break out of that, even just 10%, and be like, I'm going to do this. I'm going to buy 500 t-shirts. I'm going to print these. I'm going to sell them at my local farmer's market or partner. I think collaboration selling is really cool. Like I've partnered with some other companies to promote my company. And I think that's kind of where, when you can see alignment in others, that's that growth mindset that I think could also propel people forward. So there's so many different ways.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And that's so true. That collaboration piece is also very important. So Maria, I know just because we're talking about money right now and your family and the family business, I'm so intrigued because we had another guest, former CNN analyst Kirsten Powers, who bought a piece of land in Italy and she's now there and setting up house. That episode was so popular because so many people saw the whole thing about escaping the rat race.
Possibility.
Yeah, and the possibility.
It's also possibility.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And the type of lifestyle in Italy that you talk about is the one that I grew up with too. So I know that it's something that we all really want. I just wanted to touch on your personal financial identity. I know you did the quiz on the Institute on Holistic Wealth website because I wanted to go back to your money story too, in terms of even your parents and the upbringing and how money was viewed in your family and how it formed you in terms of your business, your writing, everything. So can you share with us what your results were and how you think it jives with kind of your lifestyle?
Yeah, such a great question. And by the way, I love the quiz. I'm so happy it's on there. So for all of you listening, take the quiz. It's very cool. It kind of gives you an insight into your habits. And I was the minimalist. And it's kind of funny. If you were to walk into my house right now, there's not like one thing on the counter. Everything has its place. I don't want to use the word organized, but in order for me to think clear-headed with goals and tracking and all that good stuff, my environment needs to look and feel a certain way. So that's me. I know some people might be able to live with stuff everywhere and like, that's like my worst nightmare.
Yeah.
And that's also the way I was raised. So my mother, my friends would joke, she's like the Italian Martha Stewart. I mean, we had like an acre of gardens that we grew all our own food. I mean, I lived like I was not in America at all. I mean, I've actually never seen my mother eat a cheeseburger or a hot dog. Never. She rarely opened a can of anything.
That's amazing.
So that kind of minimalist on the money side, I think it also stems from just the way I was raised. We were raised where less is more, and I still value that today immensely. The Italian way is like you buy one Dolce & Gabbana outfit every 3 years, as opposed to buying something every month that's from somewhere. So I think quality over quantity is just, it's also me. So I love taking your quiz because I said, oh my gosh, that's me. That's like, and my husband's the same way too. So trying to teach the kids like that, use something until it's worn. Things are not just recycled and thrown. They end up somewhere, right? They end up in a landfill. So just that mindfulness piece that comes back to my books, it's also just to lifestyle. So when you go to Europe, if your listeners have been there, it's the joy in that cappuccino or the espresso or sitting and watching, people watching, right? So this is all the habits of also how you spend money. I think it correlates to that excess is not necessarily success. So I am a minimalist just by nature, but it was really fun to take your quiz because I was like, oh yeah, that's true. I don't like to rack up a bunch of debt. I don't like to, I mean, sometimes I end up living beyond my means and I'm like, oh, that doesn't feel good. I need to rein myself back. So I think just being aware and, the apple doesn't fall far from the tree. Like, look at how you were raised. If it wasn't positive for you, you have the power to change it. But if it was positive, like, keep it going. I mean, I just think, you can always reinvent yourself, but if it's a good thing and you can pass those good things to your kids, do it.
Absolutely. And that's so profound because it's so true. And it's so amazing. We have Global Holistic Wealth Day coming up on April 9. Around the world, it's now celebrated in over 80 countries. And I wanted to ask you what you're doing because I'm hoping that you will be doing something meaningful in your own life as well. Because I think the more we share and talk about it, people will have a more profound understanding about how they can integrate it in their lifestyle and their daily lives. So, Maria, are you doing anything in particular, anything planned for Global Holistic Wealth Day? Anything on the winery side or any of your passions or books? Anything like that's open?
All the above. And I'm so excited to tell you, I'm going to be in Japan.
Awesome.
And we're going for the cherry blossom season, the growing season over there. And actually on that day, we have a meditation led by a Zen Buddhist monk in this unbelievable temple.
Oh my God.
So I was actually, when I saw that it was that day, I thought of you because I said, I'm going to be in this place that I've never been. It's been on my bucket list for years and years and years. The trip is actually in support of a charitable cause.
Awesome.
And so I feel like I'm doing all my favorite things and all your favorite things on.
Awesome.
So it's so good. It's so good. So
I hope you share with us. Can you please post so we can see? And using the hashtag so we can repost and celebrate with you all the way from, here.
Yes. From Kyoto. I think that's where I'll be. Yes.
Oh my God.
I can
goosebumps.
Yes.
Because that is amazing.
Wow. On your day, I'm going to be somewhere that is I'm so drawn to their culture. I mean, the Japanese culture to me, just the level of respect and cleanliness and adoration for others. And I'm very, very, very drawn to it. So I can't believe I'll be there. And I will certainly keep you in my journey story that day for sure.
Absolutely. That is so inspiring, so intriguing. It's going to be a day of celebration, Maria. And I think your books, your children's books are so aligned. And I'm hoping that parents who are listening in will grab copies because so amazing. I love travel just like you do, as you know, from my book. So it's one piece we didn't get to discuss, but hopefully at another time we'll have you back. We'll talk more about travel. But can you tell our audience where to find your books and where to find you on social media?
See, my website is Castellucci So you can purchase my books via my website. I'm on Amazon, Barnes & Noble, local bookstores here in California, but you can definitely find me online. And yes, follow my author journey at Maria Moore Author on Instagram. And that's also the same handle for Facebook. I look forward to you being part of my journey. I have lots of wellness tips, tricks, blogs. I actually have a new book coming out in September called You Yoga. And You is the acronym for Your Own Unfolding, which means everything that you hope to share with the world already resides within you. So check that out. And I can't wait to come back on your show. I want to learn more from you, Keisha. So
awesome.
I need to interview you because I want to learn how you were able to do this. I mean, I know it through your book, but how you were able to gain so much personal joy through your work is also very inspiring to me. And all the lives that you've touched is truly remarkable. So kudos to you.
Thank you. That's such a nice thing to say, Maria. I look forward to carrying on the conversation for sure. Let's stay in touch and continue it. And I'm so happy to be connected because I feel like your work, what you're trying to achieve is so aligned with what we're doing with the Institute on Holistic Wealth and Global Holistic Wealth Day and the podcast and everything. So thank you so much for joining us on the show. It's really a pleasure having you on, and I love the story. It's so inspiring.
Thank you, Keisha. Thank you so much. This has been so fun. You and I could talk for days.
We could. Absolutely. We could.
Girl power. I love it.
The Holistic Wealth Podcast with Keisha Blair is brought to you by... Have you joined the Institute on Holistic Wealth? If you haven't already, what are you waiting for? Choose your membership plan at the Institute on Holistic Wealth/memberships to join. As a member, you'll get access to free worksheets, advice, coaching, and an intentional design workshop. As you start to live a more holistically wealthy lifestyle, you'll want to stay for a very long time. So go to Institute on Holistic Wealth/memberships to join. If you haven't read the book yet, pick up a copy of the award-winning best-selling Holistic Wealth 36 Life Lessons to help you recover from disruption, find your life purpose, and achieve financial freedom.